Guys, welcome. Chris Cox here for another guitar lesson. Today we're going to do a Scorpion song called The Zoo. This is off the Animal Magnetism album, which came out in 1980. This was the album before the big breakout album, Love at First Sting, which had Rock You Like a Hurricane, Still Loving You, Big City Nights. That was released in 84. Really cool tune. Got a really great, just steady, slow groove, great riff. Mathias does some really nice guitar phrasing in the solo parts and the fills. He uses actually on this tune a talk box, which Joe Walsh, Peter Frampton, those guys, really brought that piece of equipment into popularity back in the day. In this case, I don't have a talk box, but I set my head rush pedal board to a wah pedal sound that really is pretty close. Sounds a lot like it, so I'll show you guys how to use that using a wah pedal. But the tuning for this song is standard tuning. However, it's slightly above standard, so you're going to have to tune just a little sharp. Back in the day when they would record, they only had so much space, so much time to record. So if they had a song that was running just a little bit over the time, they would speed up the recording so everything could be, fit onto a record. So that's the case with a lot of older songs. So if you notice that, you go to your guitar book or whatever and it says, hey, standard tuning, you go, well, it still doesn't sound right. That's usually the case. And so let's get started. The Zoo, Scorpions. Let's play that intro riff slowly. Talk about those chords in this. So the nice thing about this type of riff is that, it's the same shape. So if you can maintain that little shape that we're going to play, and just slide around from the, fret to fret, then it makes things a little bit easier when especially if you're a beginner guitar player working on these songs. And for me, once I figured out what a power chord, a bar chord, 5-chord is, it just seemed like it opened up the floodgates for learning, tons and tons of rock songs, because, almost every rock song has a lot of these chords, so they're real important. So when I do this, I do a down-up strum on this, so it just feels more natural for me. When I was studying the song and kind of watching some of the video of the Scorpions play, and I'm pretty sure they're doing down strums. Either one is fine, whatever feels comfortable to you. But the first one starts on an E5, and that's going to be 7th fret of the A, 9th fret of the D, and we're doing a... That's just going to be shifting down a whole step, so that's 2 frets to the D5. So we go back to the E5. So D5 is going to be 5th fret of the A, 7th fret of the D. So we have this. Now we're going to shift up here to the C5 and B5 and play that part. So that's going to be 3rd fret of the A string, 5th fret of the D, and then 2nd fret of the A string, 4th fret of the D. So we have it's pretty much, down strums with this, 1 strum. And then we're going to come back to the E5 and then resolve here on the D5 before we go into the second part, which is slightly different. So we have this. So it's the same chords, but when we switch up from this, we stop on the D5 instead of coming back down to the E and then switch into the D5. So all together slowly it sounds like this. Riff of the song I always think of as like the reference riff, because oftentimes sometimes these main riffs are 90% of the rhythm in a song, and in this case this rhythm is played, I'd say it's at least 70% of the song is this riff. So it starts off with kind of a droning slow groove open E string, so we're doing a Now, I should say, the really important part, we're going to talk more about this as I do lessons, is yes, we want to play the right notes, but we want to make sure that the other notes that we don't want to ring are muted. Okay, so when you're doing this down strum, you got to make sure, one, that your palm's in the sweet spot. So you're kind of resting your palm, not hard on the bridge, but you're slightly letting this side of your hand rest here. Depending on where it lays is depending on what it's going to sound like. So here, for me, this is a sweet spot. But if I get too high up, it's not going to sound very, very good. If I get too far back, it's not going to mute like I want it to. So, and every guitar is a little different, especially floating bridges. You got to really be careful how much, weight that you put on the bridge, because you can make everything pull, sharp if you put too much pressure. So you're lightly, you're resting your hand here, but you're not pushing down on the strings or the bridge. You're just kind of resting it there. Your right hand needs to be loose and free, just kind of like your left hand. You need to have pressure, with your thumb, but your thumb doesn't need to be anchored to one spot on the back of the neck. It needs to be able to move around. So the other part too is using the fingers up here on the neck to mute other strings. So in this case, you can kind of see I'm using my middle finger, third finger, and even pinky finger sometimes to make sure that I don't hit any of these other notes. Because if I've got them muted right and I accidentally get a little too aggressive and strum too hard, then I've got it covered by muting. So if you're muting up here with the fingers you're not using, and you're muting correctly down here, it really makes a big difference in being a clean guitar player, which is what we all want, right? We want to be able to play accurately, and we want it to sound really good and clean. We don't want the notes that we're not supposed to ring out, because that's when usually you get it gets very frustrating for guitar players, because they're like, I know I'm playing the right notes. I've got it down, but why is it sounding like this? Well, that's a lot of times the problem is just, are we muting the other strings that we don't want to ring? So let's get back into that. So off my soapbox. So we're doing this. I flubbed that just a second ago, sorry about that. But these little chords we're playing, they're intervals. Like this first one is a minor third interval. And an interval is just basically the musical distance between two notes. So the first one is going to be 7th fret of the D, 5th fret of the G. And then we're going to go from this minor third interval to this major third interval. So it's... back to that low E. So, these chords are not going to ring for very long, so you're going to stop them pretty quick. So you can kind of see when I finish that chord, I'm laying my finger back across those strings to stop them from ringing. So you can always come back up here to the second position too, the E5 chord, if that, get a heavier sound if you want, but you can also just hit the open E. So that major third, that's a G major third interval, that's going to be 5th fret of the D, 4th fret of the G. So we're switching from here to here, we play that twice, and then we go. So let's go through that. So we have these chords. We have, this is the major third here. So this is going to be also the minor third. This will be an F sharp minor third interval, I believe, and that's going to be 4th fret of the D, 2nd fret of the G, and then we're going to play open G, 2nd fret of the D, back to that one we just learned, and then back to the major third here, and then it repeats. So we have, and that repeats again. So on the third pass through, The second guitar player goes up and plays a high version of this riff, which sounds like this. So if you're a single guitar player, I kind of just like to switch back and forth. When I'm playing this, sometimes I'll go play the the version, the riff that's up higher on the neck, and then go back and just kind of just weave back and forth. So you can pick which part you want to play. But this is going to be the 14th fret of the G, 13th fret of the B. So we have, and then you're going to bar your first finger across the 12th fret of the D and the B string. Excuse me, G in the B string, if I can talk today. So we have 14, 13, 12, 12. So we have, and we're still doing in between those muted low E. We're going to come up here. This is going to be the 11th fret of the G, 10th fret of the B, and then we're going to come up here to the 9th fret of the G, 8th fret of the B, come back to the 11th fret of the G, 10th fret of the B, and then the 12th fret of the G, 12th fret of the B, and then that finishes the riff. So we have slightly different on the second pass through. Same chords. So we're just, and we're going to resolve here, which is going to be 9th fret of the G, 8th fret of the B. And then from there we're going into this same, we're just using that low E groove. This is the verse. For just a few bars, we're going to come down here and play a muted C note here on the 8th fret of the low E. So you're just back to the E. Goes again. This is the second verse. Same thing. Same. Everything's the same. You're also going to mute the C there for a little bit, and then this is the chorus played slowly. So we're again using 5 chords, but we're going to this time add the octave to all these chords. So the octave is going to be, the same note here at the top, but we're going to be playing that on the G string. So this is a G and this is a G. Okay, so we have, and that's going to be a G5 chord, so that's 10th fret of the A, 12th fret of the D, 12th fret of the G, and we're doing a, so it's going to be A, G, D string, and that's the picking pattern from all this. So we're doing, that exact picking pattern, but we're changing the chord. So we have to D, and that's going to be again 7th fret of the A string, 5th fret of the A string, 7th fret of the D, 7th fret of the G, to E5. That's 7th fret of the A, 9th fret of the D and G. So we have this. And that's going to be the C5. So that's 3rd fret of the A, 5th fret of the D and G. And then we come back. So let's play that slowly. E, C, repeats back to the G, back to the D5, and we're just playing that chord right there 3 times. So we can play a, and then we hold it, repeats again, same chords. This is where it changes. We go to the B, which is the 2nd fret of the A, 4th fret of the D and G, to the D5, to the E. Okay? So that is the chords for the chorus. Now, right after we finish the chorus, there's like a little riff right before we go into our first little solo part. So it sounds like this. So this will be the first short guitar solo. So this is going to be based around A5. So you're going to be playing open A string, and then your first finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the D. And it's all down strums, just... And then we're landing on this C note, which is the 3rd fret of the A. Back to this. And I should say the rhythm is just slightly different. It's the same rhythm, but the count going back into that main reference riff is a little different. So we go, that's what's played underneath the guitar solo. And then after that guitar solo is finished, we're back into the I guess this will be the 3rd verse. Nothing changes. Everything's the same there. Same thing with the chorus. If you knew the chorus, then we learned earlier, then it's the exact same thing when it's repeated again. There's no changes. Okay, now same thing when we go into the second guitar solo, which is the guitar solo that's the end guitar solo that kind of is the outro as well. It's the same riff. That's played through the entire rest of the song underneath the guitar solo. So that covers all of the rhythm guitar parts of the song. So this is just, again, recommendation. There's no rules to how we learn how to play guitar. Everybody has a different approach. Lord knows I have, read so many different things of guys that say, hey, try this. And then, of course, I've tried it myself, and it just didn't really work for me. So this is just advice. You can, this is not written in stone. But for me, before I tackle any of the guitar solos, I want to make sure I got a really good, strong grip on the rhythm guitar parts, because they're 95 to 99% of the song. And rhythm playing is just so important. To me, and I've had students over the years that could really, kind of dazzle you with some, great, tapping licks and things like that, and solo licks, but they really struggled with rhythm guitar. If your rhythm guitar skills are really good, then you can guarantee that when you start tackling lead guitar parts, you're going to be more in the pocket. You're going to play more rhythmic, and it's going to be tighter sounding. So that's just a recommendation from me. I would learn all of the rhythm guitar parts before you tackle the solo parts. So the guitar fills, there's some really cool guitar fills during the chorus of the song. So let's go over that first one. So it's... So that basically is, we're going to bend here on the 15th fret of the B. And you can do a little vibrato there, but we go. So we do a full bend. Remember, a full bend is going to be a whole step, which is two frets. So we're bending to this note. And that's going to be 12th fret of the high E, 15th fret of the B, 12th fret of the B. So we have, and that's going to be a bend here on the 14th fret of the G. And we're not going to stop it. We're going to bend it up, let it come back down, and then go to the 12th fret of the G. So we have this so far. Now, I'm using the bar once I do the full bend. I just think it sounds kind of cool. Or you could do a little bit of vibrato there. And then it goes back in, we're playing the, more into the chorus. The next lick is going to be... So that's another fill. And this again this is played after the first fill, so we're doing a... So that's going to be 17th fret of the high E, and 15 is where we're working. So we do a full bend, and then we're going to go up again. So with this time, we bend up and stop it, then we're going to let it go up and back down, and then come back to the 15th fret. So we have... back to the 17, and then we do another. So all together, that's the second fill. So again, we're back in, all this is happening during the chorus. The next one is real similar. We do a... And that one's, the only difference is which note we're finishing on. So it's actually all the same notes. So we do a bend here on the 15th fret of the B. And then we come to here, 12th fret of the high E. So that's 12, 15 of the B, 12 of the B. And then we come into the 14th fret of the G and do a... And that's again a full step bend, so 2 frets, so we're bending to that note. So we have... That's the same as the very first one, so nothing changes there. So we won't go over that again. So that very first fill from the previous chorus is the same. Now, once it goes through again, we're going to come all the way down here to the highest fret on this guitar, which is the 22nd fret, and we're just going to play the note, and you're going to put some vibrato on it, and then we're going to do a 4 down strums there, and that is a full bend as well. From there, we're going to go play this lick. So we're back here between the 17th and 15th fret of the high E, so we do. So it's I'm bending the note up before I'm striking the note, so it's, and then letting the note come down. So it's almost like you're raking your pick across. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be full bend up on the 17th. let it come back down, 15, 17, 17, 15, and on the 17 of the B. And then this is another lick that's real similar. So let me play that again. So real similar to some of the other licks we did before, but we're going to add these couple of notes. We're going to be here from the 7th fret, 12th fret of the B to the 15th fret of the A. So we do and you're doing a slow bend up, full bend here on the 15th fret of the high E. And then we come back here from the 12th fret of the E and then play what we've learned before. So that's similar to, so that the notes are the same there, so we do. So the only two different notes are that from here so if you learn that from that last fill from the first chorus, then that's pretty much the same thing. And then from there, it does like another little lick here from the 17 to 15 on the high E, which is real similar to what we did earlier. So it's, if you know that first lick, that last lick before we go into the guitar solo is the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over that first little guitar solo right before we go into the second verse. So what we're doing here, I've got my wah pedal. You know, I don't have a talk box. So what you're doing basically is you're going to have your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G. Third finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B, and you're going to hit those two notes together and bend up here on the 2nd fret. Let it back down, and then kind of pull off to the open G. So it's so once you pull off on that, you're going to end here on that D note of the 2nd fret of the, E note on the 2nd fret of the D. So play that again slowly. And then it's going to do and that's going to be 3rd fret of the low E, slight bend to open E. And I'll say on that very first little lead, because this repeats in the outro lead, this is held for a really long time, so you're doing like a okay, so now we're going to go back in and do the outro lead, which I guess will be considered the main lead guitar part of the song. So nothing's changed. If you learned that first little lead, we're doing pretty much the same riff. Then it repeats again. Let's go over to that part. So that's going to be 9th fret of the G, 8th fret of the B, and we do then we're going to play the 9th fret of the G, 10th fret of the B, and then go back again to the 9th fret of the G, 8th fret of the B. And you can kind of see I'm kind of sliding into that. Do this lick, and then basically, you know, this is going to be kind of like a double stop lick. So you got your Third finger here on the 14th fret of the B. The pinky finger is going to be on the 15th fret, 14th fret of the G, 15th fret of the B. I'm having a hard time talking today. So this note here is going to be anchored. You're not going to do any bend here, but you're going to do the bend on the 14th fret of the G. So we have a... And that's going to be a bend up here from the 14th. So you bend up, let it back down to the 12th fret of the G. So we have... Now, that part we're doing the same little bend, but we're going to end on the 15th fret of the B string. And then play. So all this is based around the E minor pentatonic scale. So knowing that scale helps with this lead. So when we do that, so that's going to be a bend up on the 15th fret of the B, and finishing here on the 12th fret of the B, and then we're gonna, then that's going to be a bend up on the 14th fret, let it back down, 12th fret of the G, finishes on the 14th fret of the D. So we have... Now from here we're doing 12th fret, 14th fret of the D, so, and that's going to be barred across the G and the B string. So we have... Now we're going to come here to the 14th fret of the G and B, hit those two notes together, but we're going to bend them up. And then we're going to come back and do... So that's the same notes, 12, 14. Except I'm bending slightly on that G and B. So we do 12, 14, bar across the 12th fret of the G and B, bend a little bit. So that's the lead part that you really can hear. There's an effect, it almost sounds like traffic at the very end of the song. And you can hear Mathias playing notes here and there, but that's as much as I could really hear to be able to decipher which notes are being played as far as great tones. So like in that very first riff, when we're doing a... So you can see I'm not doing a whole lot of movement. So same thing. So you know, just to kind of give you an idea, you know what the wah pedal motion looks like during that solo. So really right in here, that's where you're going to get the most change and the most, So there you go, guys. That just kind of, I just want to give you a visual of what that kind of looks like when you're doing this lead.